All right, here we go. Betting Weekly Live. Here with you on a Wednesday. Mike Carver along with Doug Kezirian getting you ready for all of tonight's action and some of tomorrow's too, since the NCAA tournament will get going. We have the first 4 games tonight, including Miami of Ohio. We got a lot of NIT action, big night in the NBA, couple hockey games. We are very, very busy here today, as we should be this time of the year, Doug. It's great to see you. And I will now tell you right now, out of the gates, I will not be using any more NHL puck lines for the best bet for the rest of the week at minimum, because I got, can you believe they scored 3 goals in the first period last night against Chicago? It looked like that they were going to smash the Blackhawks, and then they didn't score again until winning in overtime 4-3. How disappointing.
Yeah, very sloppy. I was actually watching some of the game on TNT. Just the game-tying goal at the end was very sloppy. A line change they got caught on and things like that because an empty netter was coming. So the lack of attention to detail, it's almost like an NBA game broke out last night on the ice.
It was seem like that. And speaking of the NBA game, you nailed Wemby, because sure enough, the Spurs got up a ton, and he played 22 minutes and really didn't see any time in the second half. So nice job by you, Doug, with that.
Well, I'd be careful saying I nailed it, considering I like the Kings' first quarter, and they were down by 50, I believe. So, yeah, sometimes I was so scared when I saw the score. I was like, oh, God, does Wemby have like 12 in the first quarter? No, it was everyone else, 3-pointers, things like that. But look, you got to get there. NIT underdogs barking last night. We should have been really like round robining all that.
We are going to discuss that in a moment. Let's start with a little jump ball, though, here today on some of the things last night from the NCAA tournament. Of course, the first 4 got things going. We had 2 really good finishes to start the tournament, Doug. We did have that. What caught your eye?
Yeah, I was going to say it was crazy because NC State, you read some Twitter replies and you get their fan base chiming in. And I guess this NC State team just lacked the fire and the desire to compete. And that showed up because this team was treating it like a game in the middle of December. And just the lack of urgency was really frustrating. But I was impressed with the 16 seeds in the game before. They interviewed the coach of not Howard, who they beat.
UMBC.
UMBC's coach. He's like, look, we're just dragging in the mud. We can't get off, can't get our road legs, the road dust off. And that happens. That's just sometimes you just can't get out of your own way. They did show a lot more fight, but I thought Howard was great from the start. Athletic, fast, agile, urgency. I'm going to back the Bison in the next game.
Yeah, it was actually one of the more easier to watch 16 versus 16 first 4 games. Usually those games are, and I got a feeling this could come tonight, usually those games are a bit of a slog and they're kind of low scoring, and you can be like, I can see why these teams are 16s. But that was actually like a fun competitive game with Howard and UMBC last night. So nice job. And I think Howard's getting like 30, like a 30 piece, Doug, against Michigan, something like that.
I really like it. I'm going to have an uncomfortable amount of money on Howard, I think.
But that's another good thing we've seen the last few years. Sometimes those 16s, when they win that Tuesday or Wednesday night game and they've already got a game under their belt and you go and give them 25, 30 points, they cover those games against those ones. They've got a little gas underneath them.
Well, what's interesting is this year, we've talked about the point spreads for the 5 seeds and the 4 seeds, but I remember doing one of my first articles, whether it be ESPN.com or not, and they just it was like a football article, and it was just talking about how the sharp money has really influenced the market. And you're no longer getting these like double-digit favorites in the NFL, and just the market is just tightened up, and the spot plays, things like that. And then the odds maker who was giving me quotes. He goes, look, for example, let's go off topic. In March Madness, he goes, in the 90s, you'd have these 116 matchups and these point spreads were in the 30s, right? And now they're in like the high teens. It just shows you that there's not just easy money out there anymore, grabbing the underdog. And then also the 3-pointer has changed, obviously, college basketball. So we've really seen a lot of just that the market has understood the nuance, and that's why you don't have these huge point spreads anymore in the first round, because it just doesn't work like that. Like the starters come out because they got a game in 2 days. The underdog can level the playing field with the 3-pointer, and But this year we do, right? We do have the monster number. Siena near 30, Michigan now 30. So is this a weird year and all that? So it is eye-opening because it's been quite a while since we've seen one seeds this big of a favorite.
It certainly has, and that's really all throughout the tournament, as we've discussed here the last couple of days. All right, let's get to tonight now. We do have 2 more games in Dayton for the first 4. How about the Crooked Chef? Happy Friday to me. Took the next 2 days off, as I'm sure a lot of people do. I used to love doing that, Doug. I'm not going to lie. I got the Wild and Habs money line to wrap up parlays, then having.
Are you getting a vasectomy at all? Isn't there that story where like this is the most popular stretch of days for male vasectomies?
It is. It absolutely is. Puck lines have been very difficult to hit this year. Well, John, I know that they've been very difficult to hit this week. I'll tell you that.
Technically, the first period puck line got there.
The first period, which you said yesterday on the show, on the 3-way line, Minnesota took care of business in the first period. Was hoping we'd get that empty net. We never got it. 2 games in Dayton tonight. And here they are. Miami of Ohio. Of course, undefeated regular season, lose to UMass in the first round of the MAC Conference Tournament. They get a bid in the first 4, very close to home in Dayton against this, mediocre at best SMU team out of the ACC, which is a 7.5-point favorite tonight. And a big total, 161.5 here, Doug.
Yeah, so there's been some buyback on the Mustangs. I think they stink. I've been so sick of watching this team. Now, they're going to be up for this game. Obviously, it's a tournament game, but I think they like the challenge of Miami of Ohio, just the popularity surrounding the Red Hawks. I also think Miami of Ohio is a lot better than people realize. Now, they don't play much defense at all, and they're undersized. I think SMU can just crash the boards like Houston Rockets style, where they just get offensive rebounds all game. So I think Miami of Ohio, they had a couple injuries later in the regular season. I think they're buttoned up on offense. And actually, I'm not saying that the coach didn't want to go undefeated, but, they talk about like certain teams, like it's good that they lost, like Arizona this year finally suffered a loss. I think the loss for Florida is going to be like the best thing that ever happened to the Gators, because you just don't want to go into the tournament on like 12-game win streaks. You just don't, unless you're undefeated. So I think Miami of Ohio would have wanted to be undefeated, but I actually think they're going to play loose, at least looser than they would have been coming in undefeated and things like that. I just think they're better in the underdog, us against the world, let it fly, because they can shoot. They got 5 guys who can bomb. And I don't think much of SMU at all. So I'm on the team total here. I'd like the plus 7.5, but I figure if Miami of Ohio is going to cover 7.5, they're going to do it with their offense. I just don't think they can get stops that they need, and I don't think they can rebound at all. So the flip side of taking Miami, let's say they lose 75-70, then the team total would have gone under, but they would have covered with the points. I think it's more likely that they have to score 77 points to cover, but there's a chance they give up 90. So they could lose 90-78, and I still get my team total, but I would have lost the plus 7.5. So that's the thought process, or maybe split it up. But I think the Red Hawks are the right side here.
I'm on Miami of Ohio. Look, you said it. We've said it. This SMU team is off. They've lost 5 of 6 games coming into this tournament tonight.
Right. And maybe the committee zagged. Remember, we thought the committee would screw him and put him in Dayton, but like against another sort of like at large, like Santa Clara or something. Maybe the committee's zagging, so that maybe the committee's giving them a cream,
I think they're throwing him a bone.
Yeah,
I really do. Like they could have given him
be in the tournament.
Like, I think Texas and NC State, say what you want about that game last night, both of those teams probably cleaned Miami of Ohio out if they were playing them in the first 4 tonight. I don't think that's the case with this SMU team. I don't think they're very good at all. They were under 500 in the ACC. They were 8-10 in conference. This is a great spot. I think they can win the game, but I'm definitely swallowing up 7.5 here, Doug. I'm going to root for Miami of Ohio tonight. This is the fun team to root for, and I'm getting involved in it. Let's go here with it. DeFars flying into Vegas tomorrow. Nothing like the Vegas for the first 2 days of the tournament trip, Doug, as DeFars is going on.
I don't want to spoil the party, but
I know I've heard.
I think it's 2 things. I think it's the rush you get is gone now with the national legalization. I think part of the trip to Vegas for the Super Bowl or March Madness was that you couldn't gamble anywhere else. So you had to go there, and the novelty. Now people got multiple TVs in their living room, and you can gamble on your phone at the bar, and you can bet like the first pitch of a Cleveland Guardians pitcher in the dirt and make $50,000. So I just think some of that mystique is gone. Sadly, I just think there's something to it, kind of like just evolution. Like there's nothing like the sheets in the book, right? Grabbing the sheets and getting that terrible little pencil and circling your stuff, and sometimes the pens, and you put it in your mouth, and then after a minute, you're like, oh God, this was in someone else's hands and mouth earlier. So there's just certain things that just evolve with time, right? Growing up, we didn't have the internet in high school and elementary schools, and we just had to call the house and talk to the parents first. Things like that. So I just think everybody should do it, but I just don't think it's the same, especially with these sports books now have the ballrooms and they charge minimum spends. Now you can't just like get a recliner and sit there all day and fall asleep.
It isn't the same. But that we could probably spend a couple hours on this, Doug. That's the case for almost everything in Vegas now. I don't have to tell you, you live out there. There are a lot of things that are a lot different in Vegas from 5, 10, 15 years ago. Tons of things that are absolutely different. So I'll be rooting for Miami of Ohio tonight, and I'm playing them at plus 7.5 against this awful SMU team. The early game with the 16s. Lehigh, champions of the Patriot tournament, who had a huge upset, of course, against Navy to win that conference. And then you have Prairie View, who also, Doug, they were like the 7th or 8th team in that conference this year, and they went on a run in the tournament. So you have a couple of like almost 500 teams here. Lehigh minus 3.5, 142.5. And I think that this, Doug, will be our typical 16-16 first four Dayton game, where this game's like 62-59, like something like that. I think it's like a dead under game tonight.
Okay. I'm always surprised when these 16 seeds have a spread this high, Yeah. I liked the last night with a pick 'em. That made sense. 3.5. But it's not the first time it happens.
I think last night's two teams are a lot better than these two teams. I'm kind of surprised that
I agree.
They didn't get to play these. Like Howard and UMBC should have played these two teams, is what they should have.
Yeah, committee never gets it and bats 1,000, I have zero opinion. I like that you're on the under, but look at the tempo here for Prairie View A&M. I believe the Prairie View A&M women's team went winless this year, if I know my ladies' hoops. So that's
the tempo. But then I'm hoping the tempo on the right side is the one that's going to come into play tonight. We want the Mountain Hawks to slow this game down.
Right. Does that when you have this contrast, which usually wins? I thought it's easier to speed them up.
It probably is, but if Prairie View was like the best team in their conference and that they ran roughshod through their conference and they're like the 9th best team in their conference. So I'm not a believer. They're not that great of a basketball team, Lehigh either. But I'm going to go with Lehigh taking over in this game. So you'd probably say I probably like Lehigh with the 3.5. I think you're right. This is a little bit of too big of a spread, these 16 games, to be laying 3.5 in. But I think it's a rock fight. So I'm going to go under. That's kind of what I'm going to root for.
I mean, honestly, we just care about the next game.
We can't. Right. Well, the night game is where it's at. That's for sure. When we get involved with Miami of Ohio and SMU. So there you go. First four in Dayton this evening. Let's get to the NIT because it was juicy last night for the Dogs. The Dogs were barking all night long. 7-1 the Dogs against the spread, right, Doug, in this?
Yes.
And we had some outrights. We both liked UNC Wilmington, and they won the game at Yale. Liberty won at George Mason. I still can't understand how Stephen F. Austin blew that game to Tulsa. UNLV won at the Anteaters late night.
Oh, beat down from the start.
The only one that didn't get there was the one I like, St. Thomas. They're the only ones who didn't.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't get involved with Irvine. Just the problem is, the Rebels, blow the late game execution, had a 55% free throw shooter out there. I mean, that's just the beauty of this whole thing. By the way, you'd be shocked to hear Yale miscues down the stretch in crunch time.
No way.
Yeah. No. But I will say it wasn't the coach's fault. Nick Townsend, Ivy League Player of the Year, 0 for 4 from the free throw line. including missing both when fouled with about 7 seconds to go, down 1. Missed both. Really short on the first one, really long on the next one. Feels like me in the tee box, just all over the place, head games. I felt horrible. You could see it just weighing on him. And of course, on the second missed free throw, the genius of Wilmington left a 55% free throw shooter on the main block to get the rebound.
You tweet about this.
Like, if Townsend is 0 for 3 from the free throw line and he's got another one, don't you put in a rebounder who can shoot free throws? Because they're going to foul right away. Well, he missed. They fouled that guy, and guess what? That guy missed both. Real NIT quality exception here.
That's as NIT as it gets there, Doug, in that spot for tonight. Let's get to tonight's games now here. And there's a few that me and you were kind of looking at some of the same ones. And one was absolutely Navy, who's playing Wake Forest tonight. Navy's first time since losing that heartbreaker to BU. They had an unbelievable regular season, and they are catching 10.5, 9.5 now. It's gone down a little bit. In Winston-Salem against Wake Forest tonight. Of course, a 500 ACC team, 148.5 the total.
Yeah, I mean, this Navy team was just dominating the Patriot League, right? So this is a team that really got stunned, and they were covering every game. I think, you don't know how these teams are going to respond. Obviously, Navy had aspirations of the tournament, just given how the Patriot League went. But again, Service Academy, block out the noise. They're much more diligent. I think we're going to get a good effort here, and I think the quality of play is strong on the middies. So I got to grab all these points, and Wake was pretty awful.
I agree. I like Navy tonight with the points here against Wake Forest. George Washington taking the trip to Utah Valley tonight. Yes, that's right. Utah Valley. Aren't they the team that didn't pay their bills in the WAC and they were going to throw them out?
Oh, I forgot. No, they're the team that had the alley-oop dunk.
All right.
They blew it in the end.
1.5 for Utah Valley here at home tonight. 153.5.
Right.
GW? Got to be GW, right, Doug?
Yeah, sure. I think just playing sort of, amateur psychologist, you look at how things are handled and, all that stuff. I think you got to you just wonder what Utah Valley's headspace is.
Yeah.
After the alley-oop dunk.
We have 3 teams from the Mountain West playing tonight. Okay, this is a Mountain West NIT Wednesday. We love the Mountain West on this show. We have been a big part of it throughout the entire season. You have got New Mexico at home for Sam Houston, Nevada at home for Murray State, and Colorado State at home for St. Joe's. Tell me about Colorado State first, Doug, and then I will try to get you involved in something else.
Yeah, so basically, it's about which team's got the right headspace I just mentioned, right? Like, I don't think CSU sort of dropped the ball and any of this stuff at the end. Like, I don't think they had some heartbreak like Utah Valley did or Yale, and which is where they didn't quite. Although Yale started the game strong, so I was impressed with the Bulldogs yesterday. I think the Mountain West might be okay. We laughed with Massaro yesterday on this. Like, I thought the quality of play in the Mountain West tournament was really good. Now, the Rams were not, but I thought the semis of one game, and then I thought the championship game was really well played. San Diego State just had dead legs like we anticipated with the under. So that's my concern. But I think the Mountain West may be just like a bunch of above average teams, right? Like, there's something to be said about that because they only have one team in the big dance. I don't know much about St. Joe. Like, I don't think they're that great. Now, I don't want to be laying 5.5, but remember, we have altitude, and a lot of teams in the Mountain West have altitude and are used to altitude. That's not the case here with St. Joe's. So I actually think the Rams, who were playing great down the stretch going into their regular season finale, I'm banking on maybe they can revisit and channel it again.
Let me ask you this. Mountain West money line parlay tonight.
Ooh.
New Mexico at home against Sam Houston, Nevada at home against Murray, Colorado State at home against St. Joe's. -104. 3 of them are all favorites at home, decent favorites. Who screws this up, Doug?
I don't like And I'll tell you why. Because I think the variance in something like the NIT is really high.
Yeah.
I think I would rather do like alt lines because I think if teams win, they're going to blow. Like there could be blowouts now, or dogs win outright, like we saw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like last night's 7-1 ATS, like the outright dogs got there because you just don't know who's going to show up, and you don't know where people's heads are at. So I think that's the key here is the variance, and the altitude could play a big home court advantage. Now that altitude can be sort of just to get the win. But that's a concern I would have of just banking on these teams to take care of business because there's just so many moving parts.
Are all the Mountain West teams good?
I would say decent.
Except Air Force and San Jose State.
Air Force found a new coach, Joe Crispin, former Penn State guard.
Wow. How about that? I also saw in the chat box there Navy money line, which is plus 390 at Bet Rivers tonight. A juicy money line, maybe. For
I would
Navy?
look at that. I would look at that.
Little early splash there in the early games. Other than that, I don't know if Dayton and Bradley interest you, Doug, tonight. You have Dayton and Bradley, Kent State and Illinois State.
No.
And Illinois Chicago against Cal.
UIC is pretty good. They're pretty reliable. They had a couple games where like their top scorer got ejected or something like that. But other than that, I think they're going to bring it. And I like Cal, right? We like Mark Madsen. So I think that'll be a sneaky good game.
There you go. NIT, 8 games tonight as they continue to move around in the first round. All right. We're going to now, Doug, get into some of tomorrow's early games in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, we're on at 4 p.m. East, so we're going to cover the night games on tomorrow's show. But since this is our last chance to look at some of these afternoon tips, and the madness does begin with, of course, TCU and Ohio State at about 12:20 p.m. East on Thursday. Let's see what we like in a few of these. And as I mentioned, that is the first game in Greenville with the Horned Frogs and the Buckeyes. Right now, Ohio State minus 2.5, 146.5 the total.
So I've gone back and forth on this game. I was on the Buckeyes at the beginning of the week, and I still am. But there's a world where TCU, I mean, they're well coached. They've played well in a lot of games against good opponents. You know, Buckeyes are better as a dog. In these coin flip games, do you really want to lay 2.5? Like they can come down to the final possession, right? Look at last night, right? NC State was not within the, down 10 late and somehow lost by 2. So I thought Texas was if they were laying like 2.5, I would have been comfortable with a minute to go, and then that didn't happen. So I'm on the Buckeyes if anything, but these 8-9 games probably need to stay away.
We discussed this the other day, and you had me thinking a little bit about TCU. And I really want to see them play Duke in the second round because I feel like they would get the bar fight game with Duke early on Saturday morning, and they would give Duke a hard time. I think Ohio State would get their clock cleaned by Duke. I think it would just be a run up and down. Duke would come. I feel like TCU and Jamie Dixon would drag them in the mud. And I really want to see TCU get through this. I'm taking them tomorrow, Doug. I want to see them win plus 2.5 against. But these 8-9 games are always tricky. They're always very tricky. But I'm going to side with Dixon here in TCU in this one.
That's totally fair. And honestly, I don't want to get in the business of teasers, but you can tease these bad boys or alt lines up to 6.5, stuff like that. It's good.
I have never heard you use that word with college basketball before, Doug. That's the first time I've heard you use that word.
You could also just take ridiculous numbers like 10.5 and just do like a 4-leg parlay.
I've been down that road, Doug. Yeah. I've done that from time to time. I go ahead and I get involved there. Second game of the day, just after 12:40 East, Troy and Nebraska in Oklahoma City. Nebraska laying 12.5 and 137.5 the total.
Yeah, this is interesting. There's always these trendy dogs, but I said at the beginning of the week, I want to remind everyone, I'm throwing out a lot of trends from earlier years or, for decades, like the 5-12 matchup. I just think it's a different tournament now, and there's a bigger gap between the 5 seeds and the 12 seeds. And each year's different, right? It's seemingly a top-heavy year. Last year, obviously top-heavy with all 4 1 seeds reaching the big Final Four. I think Nebraska's very well coached. They hit a little bit of a wall, but that's okay. So they got bounced early in the tournament. That's actually great in the Big in the Big Ten. So I think they're going to be buttoned up, bombing. I like Nebraska money line in some parlays here. I just don't see Troy winning this game.
I feel like, and this sometimes happens the week you're getting so worked up for Thursday and Friday that sometimes games get lost in the shuffle. I feel like this game has not been on anyone's radar, this
Yeah.
Troy-Nebraska game. It is a real and you know what that means? Like, it's probably going to be a hell of a game because no one has talked about Troy and Nebraska all week. I kind of like the over a little bit, but it's not something that I'm running to. That's for sure. High Point and Wisconsin. Now, this game is just after 1:50 p.m. East in Portland. That means, Doug, obviously, as we like to do math around here, that means 10:50 a.m. local in Portland, they tip this High Point, Wisconsin game off. So let me ask you this. 163.5. Early morning, kind of weird start local time. I know the teams will probably be kept on whatever the time is at home. Could that be conducive to an underdog?
It sure can. I know these early tip times, Foreign and Jim, right? I know they're practicing in there today or yesterday, but there's something to be said about these early tip times disrupting stuff. But also sometimes the legs are tired on defense and they don't wake up in that regard. So I like Wisconsin sort of team total over, actually. I think they can get there one way or another. Now, this should be an up and down game. And I mean, look, so many factors, right? Officiating on like the tight whistle, all this stuff contributes. It's not just the morning tip time. Because I like whiskey team total over, I will concede that I wish it was a night game because you want guys to stay in rhythm. But Wisconsin just played in the Big Ten tournament. There's some early tips there. It's a high team total, but they can bomb, and that's what they want to do. And I don't think there's much resistance out of High Point at all. I think we could see a track meet where High Point covers, but I think Wisconsin's offense just too much.
I have a future on Wisconsin to make the Final Four at 30-1, so I'll be rooting for Wisconsin very hard in all of these games. It feels underish just because of that time thing that I brought up. But maybe there's a world where you can get the over team total and we can still get the under.
Sure. Absolutely.
90-65 Wisconsin win. Why not?
Why not?
Nice and clean against High Point early in the day in Portland. How about Duke, who is going to play? They tip 250, second game of the day in Greenville against Siena, 27.5, 135.5. We mentioned this Monday. This stuck out to me. I think Siena is much better than a 16 seed, and Jerry McNamara has done a good job there. Duke's got injuries. This feels like a lot of points in a 116 game with Siena being a little spunky.
Well, I mean, the market was at 29-ish, right? Mm-hmm. And it's come down. So already we've seen line movement towards the underdog, and I still think the number's too high to your point. I just don't know if Duke's going to have that killer instinct. Now, I and many others have lost tons of money betting against the Blue Devils all year. So maybe this is just another notch of the belt where they're going to take my money. But again, they got another game in 2 days. Health is the thing. And Siena wants to bleed this clock. I mean, look at the total, right? 135.5. And you're catching 27.5. I mean, that means Siena's in like the low 50s, right? So, I mean, 54-ish. I think we can get that. And who's to say Duke's going to score 85? So I really like Siena. Now, you also, I mean, they can hang around, right? This could be an annoying game for Duke. And you got the backdoor option with 5 minutes to go, down 35. There's no reason if the starters are pulled with 5 minutes to go, they can't cover 27.5 if they're down 35.
I am with you 100% here with Siena. Of course, unfortunately for me, Doug, Siena's in New York. I can't, so I have that.
Make a run for the border.
I don't have to do that because I got Siena, I got Hofstra, I got LIU, I got St. John's. I actually got a lot of New York teams that if I might have to make the run to the border tonight before these games. Also, the early session tomorrow, 1:30 East for South Florida and Louisville. I bring this game up for this reason. It seems like the entire world is on South Florida in this game, Doug. This game's in Buffalo, of course. Louisville now at Bet Rivers is -4.5. Total is 164.5. I saw the freshman kid for Louisville is going to be out and he's not playing. But man, Doug, like everybody's on South Florida. That should be a cause for concern, no?
I don't know. I go back and forth. I mean, squares, public money, if they win half their bets,
Yeah.
okay? So I don't get too worried like the world now when there's reverse line movement and it's significant volume, but these numbers, first of all, the public hasn't really bought in yet because they bet day of game.
Hmm.
And then also like social media, Twitter's an echo. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, do we really know the splits? Now, if you told me if you had a pie chart or had some splits from Bet Rivers, it was like 90% fine. But we got word today that Mikael Brown's out. That's why the line may have moved, come down a little bit. I actually leaned to the over a little bit. I think we're going to see a
Okay.
track meet. I thought Louisville was pretty impressive, at least in the first half against Miami in the ACC tournament. I don't know. I think the Bulls can, pretty solid. I think this will be a good game. I was really disappointed last night with NC State's effort. So that's the ACC was just like, yeah. I mean, Duke trucked everyone, but Louisville, remember, got lost at Carolina without Caleb Wilson.
Hmm.
Didn't Louisville score? Are they the ones that scored 118 against NC State, or did they give up 118? I think they scored 118.
Scored, I believe. Right. And then, man, NC State had a bunch of games that gave up 100 points this year. This game's going to be starting probably right around when we come on tomorrow with these other ones, but let's do them now. North Dakota State and Michigan State, which is actually the second game after that one in Buffalo. 405 East right now. 16.5 for Sparty, 143.5.
Yeah, I'm on the dog here. I don't think much of this Sparty offense and things like that. I don't love that Fears had to have his buttons pushed by Izzo publicly to get him to play. Now, it's the tournament and the big dance. I'm sure he'll show up, but 16.5 is a big number. But Izzo, I think, is kind of not soured, but frustrated with this team. I think he's
Yeah.
had to get involved too much. And I don't know if he has the right leadership. I don't see them making a Final Four run like some people have. I just don't see it with this team. They've been way too inconsistent. Or maybe the Big Ten's just that good and they didn't look great against Michigan, who's awesome, right? Maybe they are good and they truck everyone. And what North Dakota State wants to do is they just can't do it. Like, I'm laying the lumber in some of these matchups. I'm taking the dog here. I took Siena. Maybe I'm picking the wrong dogs, but I think they can hang around here.
I think they can hang around as well. Not my favorite dog, but I think that they absolutely can. The next dog, of course, was one that I wanted to get involved with. And the number is actually moving in a direction where maybe I could. It's gone up a little bit. My Hawaii Rainbow Warriors taking on Arkansas in Portland at 4:25 p.m. East. Now 15.5 and a 160.5 total. Is it getting too high here?
Yeah, your bows are in action. I love the under. Okay.
Okay.
I like fading like this kind of situation where Arkansas, nice run in the conference tournament, feeling themselves a little bit. Dare I say a flat spot? I mean, I know it's the big dance, but I just worry about like just the emotional high of that tournament and then knowing that you have sort of a cupcake on your schedule here. I just don't trust this team. And let's face it, Calipari's terrible as a favorite of about 15 or more. They're just terrible against the spread. I think he's terrible at making in-game adjustments. That's what happened against St. Peter's. I just think he's got limitations. And I think Acuff could take over and go off. Fine. But 160 is a massive number. I mean, I made this high 140s.
Okay. And you know what? With you talking that way, maybe I should stop being scared here and just go and take Hawaii with the points. Maybe I can the Bows have been so good to me, Doug. I've had so much fun with the Bows this year. I would hate to just walk away from them here in their biggest game of the year against
I know.
Arkansas.
It's like me in Air Force. I didn't play them their last game, and they scored 10 points in the first half.
I think that I might have to, especially now that, when it was 13.5, I was like, yeah, now you're getting in the 15.5 range. Give me a couple more points. And like you said, maybe it's one of those games where I'm throwing 4 games together with some alt lines. Maybe I bump Hawaii up to 20.5 or something like that and do something silly like that. So maybe I'll get involved there. The only other game, McNeese and Vandy. McNeese getting 11.5 right now with another big total. Actually, no, 150.5 for this one. McNeese, pretty good team. 11.5 seems light compared to some of these other ones that we've talked about.
Well, McNeese is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And last year, remember, they were the only kind of big upset. They beat Clemson.
Yep.
I think this is a track meet. I think over is the play.
Okay.
Remember with Duke Miles, Vandy got another ball handler out there. He came back from injury about a month ago. month and a half, and he's been great. He had some monster games, and I just think it gives the Vandy offense a lot more punch, and it's exactly what they needed. Now, they're a good team. They're good defensively. Maybe McNeese hits a wall here. I do think the 11 and a half seems a little short, but like compared to 13. So I'm not involved in the game, but I could see the dog covering, and I could see the over.
Let's go Hawaii there in the chat box. We do like to see that. Acuff over points in the no-help defense.
He could just take over.
Irvine laid an egg last night at home. Not a good scene for the Big West. I understand, but maybe Hawaii can carry the flag for us here, at least covering against them. There you go, NCAA tournament. And tomorrow we'll be watching games live, getting ready for the night session, looking at Friday's early games. Very, very busy. Anything with the women, Doug? Because I feel like I haven't gotten to it the last couple days, and I don't want to. I know tomorrow's going to be crazy. Is there anything with the women?
So every year is different, right? So this year we have odds-on favorite with UConn. They're undefeated, and the Bruins of UCLA are clearly the number 2. I'd say Texas could beat UConn. So Texas and UCLA are the only teams that can beat UConn. South Carolina, no chance. LSU, no. Vandy, no. Duke, no. So Iowa, the championship game of the Big Ten lost by 50 to the Bruins. So that right side of your screen, no chance. So UConn's pretty polished. They play excellent defense and they full court press. And they have Sarah Strong's a freshman. She's a big, she's like center, but she can dribble and shoot threes. She's going to be player of the year. And then obviously we know about AZ Fudd, but she's a weapon on defense and literally does not miss. She shoots and releases so quickly, like Nicholas Batum. She gets a pass and it's already out of her hands and it's going in every time. So it's really hard to beat them. I do think some of the other role players can, and they're short ball handlers, I think they could get tangled up. Whereas UCLA has Lauren Betts, who's I believe 6'7", and then they have like 3 others in like the first round of this upcoming WNBA draft. So they're kind of deep with a star, but she doesn't take over games like she should. But the offense and the coaching is really good. I think UConn wins. I wouldn't be shocked if they lost to UCLA or even Texas. Texas is really good, and Vic Schaefer's an excellent coach. But none of these 100-to-1s. I know Duke won the ACC and everything. It's just not happening.
I agree with you. It just when you see that there's a team already like minus whatever that was, 330 before they even have played a game. That's not a good scene.
But they could go down. They were down at halftime to like Nova or Seton Hall or something. Like there is like the Big East stinks. Okay. So it's better this year, but sometimes we're misled by how good UConn is when the rest of the sport has caught up. And that's what's happening. And obviously Gino leading the charge over the last couple of decades, been great for the sport. And we've seen recruiting and the youth camps and everything. So we don't really know how good UCLA is, and we don't know how good some of these other teams are. I do think there's a world where we do get an upset.
Okay.
But I don't see any of those teams actually winning at all. So that's the concern.
Okay. There you go. The women's tournament, which of course starting later this week as well. All right, NBA for tonight. 9 games in the association, and we'll start with the ESPN doubleheader, which will have the Warriors in Boston against the Celtics. Celtics minus 12 at Bet Rivers right now. 216.5 the total.
It's a big number. And this Wizards team just last week was catching. So I know the Warriors, but they just played the Wizards. And then Wizards were like 20-point dogs, and they lost by like 11 or 12. This Warriors team showed a lot of heart, went to Madison Square Garden, nearly won, then took care of business in D.C. They're down a lot of bodies, but this Boston team is playing with their food a little bit. I think ultimately the defense has to be there for Boston, and I don't see it being completely buttoned up and all that jazz. So I'm a little apprehensive laying it, but I don't want to grab the points either, because I would grab the points if Boston had like, I don't know, Detroit tomorrow at home or something like that, but they play Memphis on Friday. There's no look ahead spot here. So I think the Celtics probably get it done, but the Warriors have been pretty, reliable and diligent and buttoned up both offensively and defensively. I think Guy Santos could go off. I just, some of these guys may be late scratches. Some of them are questionable. So that's some apprehension I have too.
Santos 14.5 points tonight.
I think over is the only way to go.
Up, 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 and away. The second game on ESPN, deja vu, Doug. Here we go. We love these. Same two teams, same city, and even a national TV game. Lakers and Rockets. They played Monday night. Lakers won there in Houston. Rockets -2 again tonight. 223 flat the total.
Yeah, big difference here is Sengun is expected to play. So that's the big factor, and he was not. And that's why that Rockets offense bogged down so much, because it was Durant and nothing else. And that's why he had some of that post-game. I think you mentioned it, the 2-game baseball series. I think you got to go Rockets here. But this Lakers team's starting to figure out they've played some better defense. I wonder if LeBron got publicly shamed in reading all the headlines that they're better without him, and the effort that he's demonstrated on defense has been remarkable lately. So I've been impressed with the Lakers, the execution, the miraculous missed free throw against Denver over the weekend. So I'm cautiously leaning to Houston here.
Houston -2 tonight against the Lakers. All right, elsewhere, Portland's in Indiana against the Pacers. Portland laying some good lumber on the road again here, 12.5, but they were able to take care of business in Brooklyn the other night. 230.5 is the total.
Yeah, this number was like 9.5, 10.5 overnight, and it's gone up, and I agree with the line move. I was hoping that it would stay that. So the Pacers, we got there with the first quarter and the first half against the Knicks, okay? And then they followed the script. They laid an egg in the second half, fourth quarter. This is what they do. So when you're betting against the Pacers, never bet against them in the first quarter, first half. They kind of play hard, and then they tank. They're the only team that hasn't won a game since the All-Star break. They have a franchise record 14-game losing streak. So they are all business. They have the worst record in the league, and they need it because their draft pick is protected for the top 4 and then 10 through 30. So they absolutely need to be in the top 4. I would say Blazers are the side, because after the Blazers lost in Philly, they went out and absolutely whooped the next game in Brooklyn, and now they're going to be all business in this one too. Pacers also down a lot of guys, so no Siakam. And the question is, who else is going to play? And we're going to find out in a little bit. But Toppin's already been ruled out. I think Shepard's been ruled out too, and Nebhard. So I don't know if we're going to get Nesmith or McConnell. And they just played in New York. So I think the Pacers get rolled. I like the Blazers here. But the problem is there's a lot of scoot, and that's tough to do.
Sometimes that is a problem. 12.5 for the Blazers tonight. Clippers are in New Orleans against the Pelicans. Pelicans favored at -1.5, 237.
Yeah, well, obviously no Kawhi. Pelicans have been weird. I thought DeJounte Murray would miss the game, but that's not the case. So that's good for them. And look, they don't have their draft pick, so they're playing hard, no tanking. Clippers were impressive after they were down $1 million to San Antonio. To come all the way back, I was impressed. They're playing hard. I side with the Pelicans here, but the Pelicans just lost by like $1 million in LA. Now that was with Kawhi. So that's my apprehension, but it's a hard pass for me.
The Jazz are in Minnesota against the Timberwolves. Timberwolves did take care of business against the Suns last night with no and, but back-to-back nights for the T-Wolves, laying a big number against the Jazz, 230's the total. Is this the night where the T-Wolves fall asleep, Doug?
Probably. Yeah, I think the first game, playing without your guy, that's always my thing with the Jazz is when they're out, the guys that they're out, like Markkanen and obviously Jaren Jackson Jr. and when they also don't have Keontae George, that's massive. Like they have like no offense. They were pathetic against the Clippers the other night. So I got to just like make sure I'm getting Keontae George in this game, but I would look to the underdog here. This is a game where like the T-Wolves could be trailing at halftime.
Yeah, it's the T-Wolves, man. They're
so annoying.
They're so annoying. They really are. Next, let's go.
By the way, no Naz Reid tonight.
Oh, no Naz.
I would look at Sensabaugh threes over 2.5.
Okay.
It's very juicy. But I would look at Sensabaugh over 2.5. He's a gunner. I think he had like 9 the other night against Sacto.
Slider to 4.
That's true. But you also I don't know if Keontae George playing screws it all up. But I think Filipowski's out, or I'm not. He didn't. They started Oscar Tshiebwe the other night. So
boy,
yeah, they're blatantly tanking.
That was He was that. Remember when he was everyone's All-American at Kentucky?
Sure,
Doug?
sure.
He was the best of the best.
Yeah.
The Hawks are in Dallas tonight against the Mavericks. Of course, the Hawks have been rolling. -8, road favorites, 238.
Yeah, I'd have to lay it with the Hawks or pass here. They've won 10 straight. They've been awesome against the spread. They're really restructured without Trae Young. Everything runs through CJ McCollum, the head of the snake, and then you also have Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels. And then, they're just interesting. And this Mavericks team, the other Nebhard point guard's awful. He's their starting point guard. He stinks. But when they run through Flag and everyone else, they're pretty good, right? They just beat Cleveland on Sunday, but then they got boat raced in their next game. I think the Hawks get there, but the Mavs kind of backdoor cover a little bit. They're better at it when it's like 11, 12, 13. But I think it's Hawks or pass, just how hot Atlanta's been.
Elsewhere, Memphis tonight at home against the Nuggets. Nuggets -13. Does that say 247, Doug?
Whoa,
Do I see there?
whoa.
247.
Under. I have to lean under. I mean, the Grizzlies are going to push the pace. It's a lot of points for. I know Denver likes to. I mean, Denver has the most efficient offense in the NBA when they're at full strength. That's just way too many points. But Memphis, man, they'll let it rip. I mean, we know our guys like Ty Jerome, Cam Spencer, all that stuff. So,
wow. Let me run through the others this evening. Now, last night the Wizards got home with that 19 against the Pistons.
Yes, they did.
Tonight the Nets are getting 18 at home against the Thunder, 213.5.
Now, that second unit of Thunder can blow out most teams from the start. And then, obviously you have the starters. I don't want any part of Brooklyn. They stink. They really do.
They're bad. The Raptors are 7.5-point road favorites in Chicago against the Bulls, 235 the total.
Toronto playing some decent ball, but the Bulls playing a lot of good ball, right? Like they've been, they get the win in LA against the Clippers, right? Oh, no, they lost, but they were right there. They just beat Memphis. They won at Golden State. So they've won 2 of 4. I would look to take in the points, but I think this is going to fly over.
Up and away with Toronto.
The Raptors can get stymied by good defenses. We've talked about the Spurs get them, things like that. But I think good defense, the bad defenses, they'll score.
9 games tonight in the NBA. There you go. Here on Betting Weekly Live. Of course, if you like what you see on Betting Weekly Live, as you should, make sure you subscribe to the Betting Weekly Studios channel on YouTube, where you can watch us and all of our other shows, including released earlier today. Betting Weekly WTA. Nigel Seeley and Tim Dennis preview Thursday at the WTA Miami Open, including matches featuring Iga Swiatek and Amanda Anisimova. So tomorrow in Miami at the WTA, Nigel and Tim have got you covered. Betting Weekly WTA. Speaking of the Miami Open, Sunshine Double Profit Boost. The second half of the Sunshine Double, the Miami Open is underway, and you can enhance your best bet with a generous profit boost from BetRivers. Enter the code BW316 in your BetRivers app, and you'll receive a 100% profit boost to use on any Miami Open bet up to $25. That code again is BW316. Offer ends on March 29th. Must be 21. Eligible players only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Everyone loves the Sunshine Double Profit Boost down at the Miami Open. Dougie Pucks time. NHL, 6 games this evening, including our TNT doubleheader, where the Devils and the Rangers, Doug, are playing out the string here. Neither will be going to the playoffs, but they're on TNT at 7 o'clock East tonight. The last time these two played, it was about a week and a half ago, and it was a banger. So what was that game? 6-3, Devils beat the Rangers back on March 7th. And I kind of told you this the other night when the Devils played Boston. They've been playing these high-scoring games, and that game flew over. So 4-3, 6-4, 5-4, 6-3. 4. I think you see where I'm going. Again, a flat 6 in a Devil game. I'm going over tonight. Over 6, Devils and Rangers.
Now, Rangers typically unders at home, right? They struggle to score, play a little good.
Very true. But I am leaning on my week and a half ago Devil-Ranger going wild, crazy 6-3 game. Hughes with the hat trick, all that. I think we'll get. And it just seems like this is every Devil game. Now, they're going to play out the stretch just playing pond hockey, it feels like. Like this is just going to be wide open games for them so far. So I'm in, Doug, for this over this evening. We have got a heavy hitter club game in the late game on TNT. The two best teams in the NHL. Although maybe, you know what, maybe the Sabres have something to say about that. I know that the points-wise, but since December 1st, the Sabres have been the best. The Stars and the Avalanche in Colorado. The Stars were not good to us the other night against Utah. The Avalanche coming off getting clubbed by the Penguins at home, 7-2 or whatever that was on Monday night. And Dallas is only 3 points back of Colorado for first in the NHL. Stars plus 130. They've won in Colorado already this year. Aside from the Utah loss the other night, Doug, they've been the better team recently. Taking the Stars on the money line here this evening?
Are you?
I think I am. But how about I give you something a little more juicy?
Oh.
And reverse I'll just do this now because they're playing each other tonight.
Reverse puck line? No.
No. I have got this for you. Stars to win the Central Division. Remember, they're only 3 points back. Currently 10-1 at BetRivers.
Ooh. And
that is with about 15 games left to play for everybody. They play them tonight, and they play them again at home, in the last week of the season. I mean, 10-1. Now, look, if they were 7 or 8 points back, Doug, I'd say, yeah, it's probably big hill. 3 points back, they could be 1 point back by midnight tonight.
Right. What about games in hand sort of thing?
Colorado, Dallas played one more, so Colorado has one game in hand on them.
Yeah, number feels off, but they're underdogs tonight. I mean, that's why, right?
Yes. But what if they win tonight? What's the number?
Well, but that's part of the equation. If they were favored, then I think the 10-1 would be mispriced.
Okay. I'm looking at it as obviously still relatively close with 3 points for them. And I think that maybe it's another way. If you think they can win tonight, maybe it's another way to kind of play it if you so desire for this evening. Elsewhere tonight, we have also got a couple of other Penguins are in Carolina, although it feels like the Penguins never lose, Doug, as they're in camp. Crosby is back for the Pens tonight, DeFars. I did not see that this morning. So Crosby going to be coming back tonight. Mikey Pucks nails future division bets. Well, we haven't gotten there yet. I hope so, DeFars. Hopefully Buffalo finishes the job for us. Stars to win the Central at 10-1. Love it. Ottawa is in Washington tonight as a big road favorite. I know the Capitals have kind of let go of the rope a little bit here, but that seems like a lot for Ottawa on the road in D.C. Might be Caps for me tonight, Doug, in that one. St. Louis and Calgary, zero interest. And the Flyers are in Anaheim against the Ducks tonight. Could be our late night banger over. We got it last night with San Jose and Edmonton, right? San Jose and Edmonton got through the 7. 6.5 Flyers Ducks for the late night over. That's it. That's all I got for you, Doug.
Yeah, I like those late games on the Duck Pond, those overs.
Late night on the Duck Pond for the Flyers and the Ducks later this evening, a 6.5. They're throwing us there with that one. But that Stars Avalanche game, whether you have a bet on it or not, worth watching tonight. Very good game in the NHL. Who knows? Maybe Miami of Ohio will be blowing out SMU, and we can flip over to TNT.
That'd be nice.
And watch the Stars and the Avalanche. The golf, Doug. We're coming off a winner with Cam Young.
You are coming off a winner.
We do this together, Doug. We're here. We're in this.
Very
together.
Impressive.
We're
Very
in this
impressive.
together. So we're going to try to go back to back here. We have the Valspar final stop on the Florida swing, just outside of Tampa, of course, Innisbrook, the Copperhead course. And here's where I'm looking this week. Jordan Spieth the last couple of weeks, Doug. And listen, it's been a couple years since Spieth has won. Understandably so. And we got a pretty decent top of the field here. Look at this. Xander, Fitzpatrick coming off just missing. Hovland's the defending champ here. I do like Brooks a little bit. I kind of liked him more early in the week when he was closer to 30 than 20. But Brooks played well last week too. Spieth is he's won here before, albeit it was a long time ago. But how he played at TPC Sawgrass has me very, very interested. And at the API, he was 11th at the Palmer, 32nd last week, 12th at the Genesis, 29th at Pebble. Spieth's getting his game back a little bit here, and it's a course that he's played very well at in the past. I think it's worth a poke for Spieth this week at 25-1. So he's going to be on my card.
He hasn't won in how long?
Last time he won, I was actually on him, which was at the RBC Heritage. I'm going to say that must have been 3 years ago at this point. I hit him that weekend. He won in a playoff that year. And listen, obviously last year was almost a thrown away year for him when he had the surgery. You could see some shades of it starting to come back.
Right.
And with the course history that he has here, I think it's a good week to try it. My next one for you, Ryo Hisatsune. Doug, yes, we are going to get Hisatsune, who's 33-1. Finished 13th at the Players last. This guy's been knocking on the door. He had an 8th at Pebble Beach. He had a 2nd at Farmers. He had a 10th at Phoenix Open. He was 4th here last year. So this is kind of a theme for me this week. I'm taking some guys who have been pretty close, and maybe this is their week on a kind of a little bit of a buried week after the Players. So 33-1 for Hisatsune, and the same thing with Austin Smotherman, who is 40-1 this week, 13th last week, 2nd at the Cognizant a few weeks back. He's found the driving accuracy. He's found the putter. Smotherman kind of feels to me, Doug, and this is an analogy I've been using. A couple years ago, Wyndham Clark was an absolute jabroni and then came out of nowhere and had the year of his life where he won like 3 or 4 tournaments. He won the U.S. Open. This kind of has that feel with Smotherman this year. He's kind of been a nobody for the last few years, and he's come out of nowhere with some really good results, and I feel like maybe a win's coming for him. So that's why I'm going to back Smotherman here this week too at 40.
I like it. Look, you had a good read with Cam Young, so why not keep it with Smotherman kind of thing? Timing.
The Valspar, the Copperhead course, gets a little overshadowed by the NCAA tournament this week.
A little bit.
Obviously. Just a little bit. It does. Any spring training for you tonight, Doug? I didn't realize.
Thankfully, no. What if I had like all
no
games
thoughts on the
broken down?
Venezuela win over the United States
After
last
no
night?
WBC? What if I was just like all in on spring training handicapping?
Any thoughts on Venezuela last night?
Bryce Harper, big shot, you know.
Shot.
Love the drama, love the excitement. Suppose it was a good game.
I'm glad it's over. I really
Well
am.
said.
And 1 week, I didn't realize this. 1 week from tonight, Giants and Yankees open the season on Netflix at 8:00 on next Wednesday night. Is the opener of the Major League Baseball season.
You know, this True TV thing has gone out of control. So True TV every year, we got to figure out where it is for the remote for the March Madness. But now, like with NBA and now apparently baseball, all these platforms,
they're going for it. It's just out of control. Yankees and Giants, San Francisco, basically playing like 3 games over 5 days. You know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
right.
Saturday. I mean, come on, it's just enough. There you go. Baseball. We even got that into. All right, it's time. Best bets and the Daily Double for this evening here on Betting Weekly Live. I'm keeping it very simple tonight, Doug. I love this game. I think that this is a great spot. I think that you are going to get Miami of Ohio tonight. This is their national championship. They have been put in this base standalone game in Dayton, close to home, bad SMU team. I think they will get absolutely trucked by Tennessee on Friday if they win this game. But tonight, they are laying it all on the line. I'm taking the 7.5 with Miami of Ohio as my best bet.
I like it. I think the Red Hawks will pull it out for us. I think they win too. We'll see. They really don't play a lick of defense, so that's something to consider.
Yeah.
I'm going to the NBA. That game I kind of mentioned at the end, I did some more digging. I actually really like it. It's the over in Chicago with the Bulls facing the Raptors. Now, Chicago, after that 5-game road trip, usually that first home game, they drag. Oh, no. 132 in their last game on the first game home. So it just shows you that they will push pace and go scoring and bananas. And excuse me, they have a lot of random guys like Patrick Williams and Yabusele, and then the Raptors will come at you and score, and they want to push, and they don't want to get in the half court. They'll hit some scoring lulls, but it's usually against good defenses. I think both teams will cooperate. I think we get into the 240s here.
So Raptors and Bulls over 235. Miami of Ohio plus the 7.5 in the first 4 against SMU. Plus 257 tonight at Bet Rivers for us. The Daily Double. Let's get back on track. No more NHL puck lines this week. We're going with Miami of Ohio plus the 7.5 and Toronto, Chicago over 235. Doug, tremendous job. And I'll just say this to you: get some sleep because the madness starts tomorrow.
Well, good luck for that because I haven't slept well in a couple years. In terms of like really well, like I just choppy. You gotta,
me either, especially since my kids just come and wake me up in the middle of the night. I haven't had much either.
A lot of dopamine going coursing through my veins. But no, I'm excited. It's a great time of year. I have text messages I've been getting all day. Hey, where do you guys want to go to watch the games? I'm like, nowhere. That's why I built a sports book in my home. I have 5 TVs. I will be watching games here. They're welcome.
Same thing. I've got the big setup in the basement. We'll be ready to go tomorrow at 12:30. Once 12:30 East, once things kicks off, and we'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. East, 1 p.m. Pacific, to talk about all that's happened, what's currently going on, and the night games in the NCAA tournament. Mike Carver, Doug Kezirian, Betting Weekly Live. Of course, subscribe to the Betting Weekly Studios channel on YouTube. We will see you back here tomorrow, 4 p.m. East, 1 p.m. Pacific. Enjoy the games tonight, and we will see you then.